This is AV Super Friends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV Super Friends. For December 17th, 2021, it's the AV Super Friends Off the Rails. Welcome back, everybody. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure with the AV Super Friends. My name is Chris Dector. I'm joined today by Mark, Jamie, Larry, and Justin.
Hello.
Yo.
And the other two are not going to say anything. For today's show, we're going to discuss extended reality and whatever that might mean for you. We're going to kind of look back a little bit. We're wrapping up the end of the year here. So we're going to look back on our fall semesters, our fall quarters, our fall terms, depending on your institution. But first, we have the ever popular AV News. So this article comes from AV Magazine in the UK. And it caught our eye just because of the buzzword they threw into the title. So kudos to them for writing a good title. No, not the name of the magazine itself, but so the title of this article is nearly half of employees want a workplace metaverse. And we thought, well, that's interesting. What the heck's that mean? And then doubly interesting was the fact that this was a survey done by Owl Labs, who make those famous, or as they say in the Three Amigos, infamous Owl Cam Pro or Owl Cams or whatever they're called. The little 360 things that everyone has a great concept of how to use them and then gets frustrated when it doesn't work the way they think it should work.
Everybody has problems that they would love to be able to solve with that, but as it turns out, they can't. Little known piece of AV Super Friends trivia. I hauled one all the way to Pittsburgh for the conference, Ed Space's conference back in November, and we ended up not using it. So we used Larry's tiny little Logitech webcam, which looked way better. So, and all those who interacted with myself and Justin and Jamie via that little web camera, kudos to you.
Yeah, and it was not an Owl Cam.
It was not.
So anyway, this survey basically says, at least according to the survey anyway, however you read a survey here, but 54% of the population of the UK population, so it's a UK survey, but we can extrapolate that accordingly. 54% is optimistic that an office metaverse will boost hybrid work. And a further 52%, so somehow 160 or 106% of this, but I'm assuming they mean 52% of the 54%, are confident that the metaverse can help to bridge the gap between in-person and remote workers. And we were talking about this before, that people who want to... Well,
yeah, I'm sensing a clear misunderstanding of what's going to happen here. So,
well, I think when they're talking about bridging the gap, I think they just mean let's take the people who are in person and make them virtual too. Like they're just eliminating that option,
but actually wearing boots.
So that's
Larry, you've just solved
really
it. Let's get rid of everybody in the office and done.
There's no more offices.
Well, you just drive in and then put on a headset and you're there.
Yeah.
And then you just stand outside the building and look around like this. Well, nobody can see me, but...
Then you flash gang signs to each other.
Oh, whoa, hey.
Like over the camera, like...
How do you do that through the metaverse? Because now you're talking sign language.
Gang signs? I feel like there's a piece of the survey that should have come along with the survey was how much of your job can you actually do while not being at work? And how much of your work is true work?
And so that's the thing for me is let's just take what I do at WKU, for example. I can design all day remotely and everything, but I have to be on site to hear how that sound system is performing. Correct?
You're making an assumption there. No, you're only on site because people are on site.
People are there, yeah. You are serving a group of somebody. If those somebodies weren't there, do you need to be there at all?
Well, then we don't need to build sound systems.
Insert sound.
Exactly.
Changing his resume.
Does a rave in the metaverse need a speaker tech?
I don't know. Have you seen those silent discos? You ever seen people goofballs dancing around?
Those are kind of cool, actually.
Wild, yeah.
I considered getting a package of those.
Silent discos?
Yeah, because
people
dance a transceiver thing, and then have you ever? It's really kind of a neat premise. I was going to put it in the pharmacy room, so that I didn't have to voice lift a lot of the things. They just distributed all their headphones.
Would you be augmenting their reality by doing that?
Hey, shut up, Mark.
Asking for a friend. Sorry.
I just want to augment my reality.
But I did look at that really close because I thought I want an in-ear monitoring system, but I don't want to spend that much money for all these students.
No.
So, hey, look, this silent disco deal just distributes it for me. I don't have to do anything. It's awesome.
I mean, how much of this
I didn't do it.
This whole outcome is in this survey specifically is people thinking that their Zoom and or Teams and or whatever version of that software wasn't adequate enough for them to collaborate remotely with folks.
Even
in the
before
office.
that, I would posit that how many people think that Zoom and or Teams or whatever they're using is metaverse stuff. And I think honestly, I think the answer to that is a lot, because there is a note here that says 52% of the population, again, of the people surveyed, 52% want better video conferencing technology. So I think that was probably an option on the survey. And they're like, oh, that means metaverse. Like, that's not really what that means.
Not quite there, but.
Man, I kind of wonder if the Facebook thing didn't confuse it all by them becoming
people
meta.
were like, oh, wow,
and now is
Facebook
social
for
media
work? Yeah, sign me
meta.
up.
I can do Facebook at work and get paid for it? Well, I already do that. I just don't tell people.
I don't have to fake it now.
Exactly. We get paid for metaing around. Okay, cool. That'll
I do
help
wonder if
bridge
this
the
means
gap.
that we'll see something from Owl coming out with some sort of like 360 metaverse camera thing,
Scanner
or something.
digitizer.
Yeah, it's going to scan you first, like in Tron, and then beam you into it, and then you have to fight your way back out.
There are. Let's go to the not so distant Wayback Machine, and there may have been different universities doing I'm going to date myself here, the Second Life thing, where we had like institutions being mapped and put into Second Life at one point, and that was the
Second
same
Life
promise.
Classroom.
Yeah, people would come in here and they would attend these virtualized sessions together in this virtual space, and have avatars and the like. I mean, I guess you could just make that, but I don't want to say that's the end all be all what people are thinking. But
I almost want to sound like Mark here. What problem are we solving?
Yes, that's what I'm like.
That's why I'm trying to figure it out.
Get off my lawn!
Is it lousy cameras
really
and microphones, or like what are we talking about? Is it
really
a
substitute? Is it really a substitute for an in-person meeting to have an avatar meeting in that example?
So let's role play that beginning of that meeting. So now we said, hey, can you see me? Can you hear me? Wait, can you see my avatar? Well,
I can see you, but you can't see me.
I see. Well, I don't know if that's your daughter's account you must be on still. You didn't log in correctly, so you look like a different person. Oh, hold on. Let me log out. Wait, no. Oh, that's my other shirt. That's the wrong company. Sorry. Yeah. 20 minutes gone. We're never going to get
I accidentally logged in with my personal profile, which is inappropriate for work.
Right. You have to restart your machine, Jamie. Sorry.
It's
not that account.
Yes.
It's my OnlyFans account, right?
I can only imagine this will lead to increased efficiency in meetings and corporate meetings. I can only see a future.
Well, actually, Mark, you may be correct, because a lot of us have stated, and this has been a kind of a running joke for 40 or 50 years, that meetings are the practical alternative to work. When you don't want to do actual work, have a meeting. So if the meetings in the metaverse go so badly that they start getting canceled, that means we'll have fewer meetings. Ergo, you must be doing more work, I assume.
Can you imagine? We have all these people that overuse the filter bullshit right now, or the background jumper. Like they have a different background every 5 minutes of their Zoom call. Could you imagine?
Let's go back to what you said, Jamie. What problem is this solving? And I'm thinking about the problems that have kind of come up since we've split at WKU with remote work and on-site work, and there is a situation where sometimes I don't get information from conversations that happen on site if I'm remote, right? And I've got to ask more questions. So I'm wondering what was in the 50% of the people that answered the survey, were they thinking they're being left out at work? And is that more of let's throw the metaverse or whatever at it to solve this problem, instead of actually solving the problem with policies and procedures and just communication and cell phones?
Now, on the flip side,
is that the real answer here? I mean,
yeah. And on the flip side, I guess some of this makes sense, because I know that I now routinely have SketchUp walkthroughs of plans and hope for systems where
you're in the metaverse right now.
You're in it. Yeah.
Virtually running now. It's over, a Zoom call or something. I'm like, hey, look,
you're in the metaverse.
You sit here
Zoom.
and you use your eyeball, So there are some things where
it
it's
has
not
use cases.
VR glasses. No. It's still too deep.
But maybe I'll play the AV diplomat side of this. What opportunities does this actually present us? Let's not talk about the problems that exist. Are there things like what you just said that are opportunities for maybe this metaverse to exist to gain some efficiencies in our workflows?
There's a lot of decisions that are easier made in that kind of environment than just looking at a piece of paper or trying to explain it. Or
you all have done a lot of construction projects. Have you used the Matterport technology?
Yeah,
I've used the crap out of that. It's awesome.
During when we were working remotely, we had construction projects in real time. Like that was a three-dimensional fly-through.
Yeah, in the commercial construction world, that is a huge project, product.
And it works really well for very much what you're talking about, Jamie, to give us a shared representation of this actual space. Now, it's really like scanned and digitized that way. It's not like building in whatever version of 3D modeling software. Like this is the real product, right? So,
in fact, Matterport even explicitly states, do not use this for construction or measurements. Use this for planning and design and that sort of thing.
Right.
But do not use this because they don't want to be liable if you're like, well, what was off by an inch? Who cares? It's just a building.
Yeah, but I just find it insanely valuable to say, well, I don't think you understand how big that screen really is or is not.
Let's see it in real
I don't
context.
think you understand how ugly that's really going to be.
So you map it all out for them?
Yeah.
Other duties as assigned?
Oh, buddy. But it has saved me a few times, but it's made things worse than other times.
So any last thoughts here on before we really get into it on these sort of technologies in an AV world?
I
will say I think we've identified here towards the end of our conversation that there's some very specific uses for things like this that are very useful.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think the meta side of this is necessarily like the AR VR thing of this. I don't think they're the same. I think there is a difference in that we'll talk about it a little bit here, but there's probably some buzzwordiness of it right now playing into this poll.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I believe that as well.
Larry, I think you said it. Are we seeing a problem because Facebook has changed their name to Meta, and people confuse that with Metaverse? Is that so? Yeah.
And what we're all really not realizing is really it's meta bucks with metadata.
There's a lot going on there.
They do not sell your data that you know of.
So. No, never have.
Oh no,
they don't sell the data.
They might just give it away for free. They don't sell it.
It's unrelated. It's not a one-to-one transaction. That's a contract. So, all right. Well,
a lease.
Let's take a quick break here, and we'll come back with an entirely new segment.
There's a great new digital magazine from Higher Ed AV Media found at higherEdAV.com, and we do a special monthly show where we actually stay on topic. It's a show where we try to really focus on a single topic and break it down into AV Super Friends style. That's the AV Super Friends on topic, found at avsuperfriends.com, higheredav.com, iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts from.
In the world of educational technology, the end users are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the evangelists, who push for new products regardless of viability, and the IT professionals who have to make all this stuff work. These are their stories. Technology on Trial Court is now in session. The Honorable Judges Lawrence Darling and Jameson Reinhart presiding. Extended reality. You stand accused of falsely claiming to be the next big thing in educational technology. Defense, how do you plead?
My client pleads not guilty.
Prosecution, you may now present your case.
So first, we're going to go ahead and start defining what XR is. XR is both AR and VR combined. XR refers to all real and virtual environments generated by computer graphics and wearables. XR is the umbrella category that covers all the various forms of computer-altered reality, including AR, MR, and VR. So let's identify what are some of these disadvantages of AR and VR, which is really what we're talking about when we're talking about XR, extended reality. First, your headsets currently are pretty pricey. Your HoloLens and your Magic Leaps are about $3,000. both have limited range of fields, and the gesture controls are somewhat difficult to use. Handicap limits the educational experience of those disabled. How does this work if people can't see? We're going to talk about that here in a second. Lack of flexibility in current standards. So if you're using very specific software, which has been programmed to work exactly the same, you won't be able to do anything else except what you're supposed to do. This lack of flexibility can be a huge disadvantage to most students in education. Education is a normal fixed activity as we know it. Also, AR and VR, and this is a real metric, and I'm not making this up. 20 to 95% of the people out there that wear AR and VR headsets, HMDs, head-mounted displays is what we're going to refer those to, suffer some sort of motion sickness. Now, maybe janitors cleaning up a bunch of throw up in classrooms. Maybe they're not in classrooms. Maybe they're at home, whatever. So if you have the opportunity, I would go out to YouTube and watch this. The VRARA Association is focused on accessibility and usability for headsets and standards. They had a virtual symposium on May 13th. I suggest you go check it out. They had Matthew King on there. Matthew King is blind. He says that when he puts on glasses, he has problems running into things because he feels that he can sense air pressure based upon where things are spatially around him. So he has no idea how he's going to deal with wearing something in front of his face and still being able to traverse reality.
Your Honor, I object.
Objection?
I object. This is such a narrow case of one case trying to extend itself to the greater cause of XR.
I object to this point. I am the tribunal. I will hear this objection because I agree. Judging all XR based upon the blind guy wearing a headset, not a good case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What does the ADA Association say about that? Because we're going to get into more of these ADA cases.
I would allow the court to hear that there are edge cases to how XR VR may not work, but I don't think that is the end-all be-all as to why it may be the next big thing in
This
technology.
Is building upon a big story. So this is setting forth an example of where this case is going to an equitable experience for all users in a XR environment.
I will hear the overall story, but basing it all upon that one user experience is not allowed. So the overall standard is fine.
Great. So let's continue forward. Hand tracking and sign language. How would that be interpreted? Would it translate to text in the HMD, or would it actually transpose the hand motions? And hand motions and sign language are feelings and interpretations that are going to be hard to just go to text. So that's another thing. So there are technologies out there that are addressing these things, and I'm going to bring those up. For instance, BrainPort. They put an electric tab on your tongue, and the brain rewires itself and sees an image. So that's one specific thing that the technology's being developed in the XR environment that was talked about during this symposium. BrainPort's been out there for a little bit, and they're getting better and better. We'll see where that goes. For nonverbal individuals, how is speech translated to text? Can they read it? Will there be only text-only classrooms? And speech and audio-only rooms for those who cannot see? We are talking about segregating this in a way to customize the experience that is best for that person, and that's really what we're after. We're trying to customize the experience for whatever challenges everybody has, and everybody has different challenges. Armbands are also used for muscle reading to recreate hands are an option, but that's also adding more sensors to your body, right? So that's more equipment and more things getting in your way from a usability standpoint. So there are answers to these problems currently, but they are very segmented and non-standardized, okay? So let's talk reality and practicality. There's a group in Africa that's working on standards for XR, VR, and AR. Are they talking to the groups in other countries working on standards for XR, AR, and VR like we have standards for the internet? That's non-existent today. So there's no unified experience to make all these things talk to each other. There's metrics saying that in order for XR, VR, and AR to work in reality, campuses and cities will have to upgrade their infrastructure with sensors appropriate to make everything virtualized to the people with that specific need. That is somewhere between 30 to 50 years away by all industry experts on where things are today versus where cities and campuses will be in the future. So, going back to my statement of what's on trial here, very specifically, it says, extended reality, you stand accused of falsely claiming to be the next big thing in education. So if all industry experts are saying we are 30 to 50 years away from having this as an equitable experience to where someone buys a device, buys something, and it adapts to them, it customizes to their needs, which is where this needs to be, there's not one other technology or not one other practice in higher education that will come along in the next 30 to 50 years that would be the next big thing. I'm not arguing that it's not coming. I'm not arguing that it's not a thing. My argument is it's going to be a stepping point where there will be something big, and it will not be XR that comes in, between now and the next 30 to 50 years.
Okay, I have one question for you. You mentioned how that you feel there has to be a standard based across multiple countries that, just like we have for the internet, that everybody has to play in the same playground. Why would XR be different than the classroom experience? That multiple universities have different standards for what their classroom expectations are. If this is offered from each university to their students, wouldn't it be up to the universities to define what their experience is going to be?
Sure. If you didn't want your students talking to other students at other universities, yeah, we can segregate communication and go back to this WKU student will not talk to this UNC Greensboro student. I mean, that's fine if we want to desegregate standardization, but unless these things talk to each other, there's no practicality in the real world and education for it to be a mass deployment for everyone to use cohesively.
Defense, your rebuttal.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you all seem like fairly reasonable folks. We all go to work every day. We do our part to create innovative experiences for our students and technology users around the world. I'm here today to convince you not only that XR, AR is coming, but many of you are probably already providing the beginnings of what this technology is. And in the future, it's actually going to lead to a much richer use cases than what you currently have. Please forgive my compatriot, Mr. Rexing. He is here. He's a hired prosecutor on behalf of big education, and we can't blame him. He's just doing his job. He would lead you to believe that the standardized experience in a classroom, that the chalkboard in and of itself is probably enough technology and we do not need any other further technology, because we all know that instructors write large enough on technologies, and big education does not want to make any additional investments into technology because guess what? It hurts their bottom dollar. But we know there's standards around this. Adequate size, furthest viewer. We know that there's pieces in there, and that projection simply by itself is an extension of our reality. We are doing that now. And so by the definition of using computer-aided technologies to extend our current reality, aren't we already doing that to an extent? But I'll leave you another couple of versions of how I see this playing out. If you can, court, I'd like to first bring in Exhibit A into the courtroom. Exhibit A, while not being recognized as super high tech, but let's look at it for what the experience is. And We know this simply by the learning glass, right? Many of you have probably experienced this technology, and to us, when we integrate these, it's just a big piece of glass with some LED lights, and instructor writes on it, and we see it. But from the viewer, that text is magically floating in air right there, overlaid in front of that instructor, right? Seems pretty magical to me, and it's definitely not happening in my normal reality. And so as a viewer on the other side of that, and it's being delivered by my computer, wouldn't that, by the definition, meet XR VR as Mr. Rexing has described to us earlier?
Objection.
Let's hear it.
So are you claiming, and we can bring up prior recordings of you, Mark. Are you claiming
prior court cases are not the court cases in front of us, Your Honor?
Are you claiming that e-glass is the next big thing in higher ed, which is already here, but it's the next big thing, so it's the future classroom? Are you claiming future classroom?
I'm claiming that XR VR is currently happening. Because
that's the argument, the next big thing, the next big thing. I'm always going to go back to the next big thing.
But is there a product on the market that is called XR VR? No, it is
but the definition we started with involved wearables of some sort. Now, are you arguing that is not the definition we should be using?
I'm not. How we go about the tool set and narrowly defining it is not. I'm going by the experience. The experience of the extended reality and augmented reality is what we're talking about here. Is that not what will happen in the classroom? Will the students not have an experience?
So are you arguing the fact that the next big thing is already here?
It just very well may be.
So you're saying that the next big thing is e-glass?
Nope. I'm saying the XR VR in the element. No, I didn't. Your Honor, he's putting words in my mouth, leading the jury. What I'm saying, if I will, that we are beginning to see XR VR as it currently exists being used as far as the student experience. It will be a host of technologies that are going to come along. Not one of them is going to be branded XR VR. They will fit a category, just as Learning Glass itself is not XR VR. It is a type of technology integration that works, that leads to an extended reality experience. Is that not fair?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Mark on this one.
I will bring Exhibit B to the floor. Quite simply. We're doing it every single day now. Zoom, Teams, all of these different technologies allow us the ability to meet in virtualized spaces together. Again, by the sheer definition, would this be possible without technology and all the hard work that many of our people, our jury, have done over the past year and a half? We digitized spaces. We captured this analog environment, put it into a digital realm, and moved it around the world. How is that not a virtualized environment? It is a virtual reality where we are all in a common virtualized space together. I certainly know in my reality, I cannot have 25 other people huddled up in a dorm room experiencing a class. And we are using computers and technology to digitize that and collaborate together in a virtual environment. By the definition, is that not VR? I don't know. I'll leave it up to the jury to decide if that is the case or not. But we've even gone as far to talk about in Teams, in Zoom, the avatar within its space. Another virtual reality concept, right? So, and in that, we look at our virtualized backgrounds that we have. I have instructors who create content for those backgrounds and interact with them as overlays. Doesn't that meet the criteria of XR VR? Simple like weatherman concept where I'm on top of weather. That's not my reality, but I am interacting with the technology that has been enabled by a computer, by your own definition. I would say that it is. If I can, I will bring one more exhibit to the floor. And this one, while I may admit it may seem a little larger and more grand, but let's talk about this concept of esports, right? We see a lot of our esports and arenas being created all over the world right now. And this by itself, just by looking at it, you can see that there's a lot of XR VR. We even have headsets being used in these environments. And are we not seeing universities around the world dumping tons of money into these arenas, millions of dollars? And wouldn't it be foolish for us to believe that none of this technology will be asked for in a typical learning space? That we're just going to somehow just create these random one-off experiences for students, and none of that is ever going to make it into a normalized classroom environment? I don't think that'd be a real safe assumption. I think many of these technologies are going to see their way into normal classrooms. And the fact that students are working together, collaborating in these virtual environments to solve problems, is that not a trend in teaching and learning that we see day in and day out as success, I think any of those technologies allow students to work together, whether it be common virtualized playing field or common work that we're all in a virtualized environment to solve a problem. That trend is already happening. We are seeing that day in and day out. So if you look at XR VR, it's not that it will be the next big thing. It's so big that it's already here and it's already made its way into many of your classrooms.
Objection. So as it's defined, XR, all real and virtual combined environments and human-machine interactions generated by computer technology, period, is Mark's definition. My definition is all real and virtual combined environments and human-machine interactions generated by computer technology and wearables is my definition. So let's go into the definitions of AR and VR. AR is defined as wearing headsets, clear lens, looking out into the real world through digital content that is layered onto the view, which is reality customization device. VR is fully self-contained, immersive, controlled, and designed full field of view. So in all of Mark's definitions do not encompass those field of views, wearables, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel jury, that Mark is pushing the definition of what XR actually means the way it's known to everyone else out there in the universe.
Objection stands. I think your entire case is based around dumbing down the definition of AR VR to make anything fit.
I think that at the end of the day, if you will, I'll bring to the court one more version of this, that why would we constrain ourselves to say we have to wear a piece of something to have an experience? If the cumulative total of the experience can be enabled by not having to wear technology, why would we have to wear it?
I don't disagree with the defense's standpoint. However, the prosecution did not define what XR, VR, and AR is, and the prosecution was hired to defend or prosecute, rather, what that definition actually means and what is the next big thing. So as of right now, what the accepted research and terminology is, that just does not fit.
So in closing, I would like to take a larger view of the classic four walls that we teach within and embrace as technologists and adapt to what the possibilities and how teaching and learning and engagement takes place. It may not be today, it may not be next week, and it's probably not going to be a Ready Player One scenario, headsets and interactive suits. And as technology professionals, aren't we always looking for new opportunities and what the potential to try these new innovative tool sets may bring to us? And isn't that why we get excited? We can always crank out standardized classrooms, but shouldn't we think, how can we do this a little bit differently to lead to increased engagement and building on that to whatever it may be, wherever it may be? I think as technology professionals, we all should embrace that XR/VR is beginning to be here right now. And how does that change the way you look at your teaching tool sets? I rest my case, Your Honor.
So we've just heard both sides of this argument. On January the 2nd, we will have a Twitter poll where we request all our listeners to vote on which side won this. Is it Mark who's defending that AR and VR is already here, or
and will continue to be the
Justin?
Next big
thing? Yeah, and will continue to be the next big thing. Or is it Justin who correctly identified what everyone means when they say XR and VR, and that it's not feasible right now for that to actually be the next big thing?
I don't know if I have
Or is it a mistrial because they were both arguing completely different things and this doesn't work anyway?
That's the beauty of the American legal system.
Objection.
Well, and one of the nebulous things is like how do you define this and what's it mean to you and how is it going to work?
But I think that is the conversation.
Let's hear from the people out there.
Hear from you guys.
So, the listeners are the jury, so you get to decide the case, and then XR VR will either be lauded as the next big thing or taken out in the back and summarily shot and thrown in the dumpster.
I got paid either way, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we'll have the Twitter poll up for a week, and then we'll get the results, and we'll talk about it on the next show.
Do we know when that Twitter poll is going to come out?
That Twitter poll will come out January 2nd. We'll leave it up there until that Friday.
Excellent. Go on and vote accordingly. I think we'll have three different options on there. So, go for it. So we're looking for you. AV Super Friends.
Mistrial.
All right.
All right. So any last thoughts on the AR, VR, XR, MR, actual reality stuff, and anything we want to say to our jury out there before we close out and go to our last segment here?
To complement the defense, I will say that what we will see is, and I'm complimenting Mark, the defense, right? I'm getting this right this time because I was a prosecution. I keep gumbling that up, but that's okay. That we will see this definition redefine itself over the years, and we will see new technologies come about, and there will be a blur, and there'll probably be new acronyms that some marketing department comes up with that is SR, meaning something else that combines all this shit that we're talking about.
Somebody else's reality.
Somebody else's reality, right? SR. So with saying that, Mark, you had something to say about
I'll
that.
compliment the prosecution here. I'll reciprocate in kind. Is that I don't think that we're going to have classrooms full of people wearing goggles and things like that.
I don't either.
I'm not saying that's happening next week, and I don't think that version is going to be the next big thing. And yes, and he is absolutely true about all of the accessibility pieces of that when we start getting into wearables and the like. But I do like to say, broaden your horizons on how you think about things and what is our reality when in teaching and learning space, and what does that mean to students?
It's like the Matrix. What is reality, right?
Is this a Matrix? Is that XR? I don't know.
Maybe that is the next XR is the Matrix.
We're in the Matrix right now, man.
Wow.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Do you have a question for the AV Super Friends? A topic to suggest? Or were we just really, really wrong on something and you'd like to give us a piece of your mind? Well, don't just yell at your computer. Send us an email and we'll actually read it. Mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. We're always looking for good ideas to steal, discuss openly. And if your message is just full of great stuff, we might just invite you on the show. Mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. All right, so a couple of months ago, we talked about kind of like here's some things to be aware of for fall 2021. And, here's things to look out for. Here's your next top help desk ticket you don't know about. Well, all right, so we've completed fall 2021. We've done with our fall semesters, our fall quarters, our fall terms. So I guess the question is, how did we do? And, did any of these big things to watch out for, was this the things that we had to deal with a lot, or were we completely wrong on that? I mean, what are you guys finding out there?
Pseudo correct.
Correct. I'll take it.
Done.
So from our example, and something I didn't think would happen for us because we were eliminating all the codecs. We had 2 remaining on campus. And right before finals.
Well, let's state right now, what you're talking about is that the integration of codecs, but in the Zoom world, is going to be a big problem.
So right before finals, they stopped connecting to Zoom rooms. I haven't looked into it. Support's been all over it.
Cloud rained down on you.
These 2 rooms are highly used in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, then on the main campus. So now, because we have a bunch of gear laying around that we were going to test, I have to, on January 3rd, drive up to E-Town, grab all this junk, and try to duct tape a Zoom room together so it connects with other Zoom rooms on the main campus to bypass the codec, which has proprietary mics and cameras in the room that only work with that codec.
I will say the 323 experience is just as terrible now as it was then, and if not worse. And I have somehow got some funding to continue my 323 extraction campaign, because it is more relevant now than it ever was.
Yeah, we thought we had a little bit more time. We thought it was going to work for a while, and we've been slowly getting rid of them because we know we needed to, but now it's an emergency situation.
As far as another thing to be aware of for fall 2021 that we kind of tossed about was longer lead times. Average space is taking 12 to 18 weeks, or at least. I didn't realize how big of an issue that was actually going to be. I'm already ordering equipment for summer, and I have some of my summer stuff that they've already told me it won't be here until next fall.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yes. I think we all knew it was coming. We didn't... I'm with you. Most of us, because of the nature of our business, we have to wait 3 months to do anything anyway. We usually wait 3 months for the holiday, or wait 3 months for summer. But so we're kind of used to longer periods between ordering, but holy moly, the negative impact was larger than anticipated. I thought it would be a headache, not an actual
migraine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not a, you're not doing anything.
We're getting into stroke level of headache now. It's
like twitching.
It's a little crazy.
Convulsing.
I'm wondering if like this longer than normal lead time is kind of a thing that's going to be just the way it is. Like I don't
going to be the thing.
Yeah, like I'm not saying full 16 weeks. I think just the logistics side of how we operate, there's going to be some acceptance that, you know what, I'm not going to stock a warehouse full of stuff here and off the port somewhere. It's just going to wait till it comes in when I amass enough orders to get it in there. So I think we're all going to have to become more comfortable with that. Like, hey, your lead times and projecting things out. And this has been going on for years, right? It's not new. Like manufacturers want to forecast what they're making.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be 6 weeks or maybe 8 weeks on something that was delayed. But now if you're hearing 8 weeks on the soonest, of course, it is weird. I don't know if you guys are running into this. Like, I need a 100-inch monitor as part of a big project. Well, that 100-inch monitor can be here the first week in January, but I can't get the switcher until April. So it's an odd way of mixing things, and I know it's entirely dependent on chipsets and components and things like that. But it is weird.
Yeah, and that's where I think we always assume that 8-week lead time was. That's what I anticipate for the just-in-time manufacturing of today. Right? They're just making just enough for just today, and 6 to 8 weeks, whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm just more concerned by, the fiscal year ends in July 1, and I'm seriously feared that I can't get anything here in time to spend that fiscal money. And because we're all in this non-profit hell,
like get it here and get it off the books. It's got to get off the books.
Now, and something that I wanted to bring up, and this is perfect to spin off what you just said, Jamie. I went to the car dealership last week to go get my car worked on, and there was not a single car in the lot. You know where the salespeople were? Mm-hmm.
In their metaverse,
home. At home. So if manufacturers aren't able to sell product on the regular, what are going to happen to their employees that rely on that money to pay them a salary?
There won't be employees.
And then what is that going to do the next year? When production does ramp up, are you going to have to hire all these new people with what is actually going to happen to the workforce? Because
I'm going to hire a bunch of former car salesmen from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
There you go. They need jobs. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, what is
look at fallout like cars right now? Like you put an order in for a car on the website, and then it shows up when it is ready. You don't go and kick tires on the lot anymore. Like you order it, and
I do. That's how I buy cars. Every 9 years.
In farm country, it's one of those deals where we've got a whole bunch of people that ordered brand new trucks in 2020, and in 2022, late 2022, they're going to get their brand spanking new, right off the line, 3-year-old vehicle.
Yeah,
and
with the 19.
Yeah, they could probably go see it right now. It's sitting in a lot. It just doesn't have the chips in it, so it doesn't turn on.
You can go visit your car.
Oh yeah,
all right, check this out.
If it's a Ford, it's sitting it's just down the road. They're leasing every parking lot that they can get.
James, are you renting out the amount of trucks sitting around
Kansas City?
Here's
I think they're getting there. Yeah.
Here's leading off to my point is if people aren't making money on product and they're sending people home, what's the point of when that manufacturer is just going to close its doors?
To go off of what you said, if we can't install systems all summer because we don't have the switcher in place or whatever
furlough.
Same with higher ed. I mean, at some point.
No, it'll be some duct tape stuff.
VR is the next big thing.
Because that's the only thing out there.
I don't think it'll hurt.
You're missing it. It's going to be VGA Sunrise. We're going to go to the storage room and get all our VGA gear out and set that back up.
15-pin connector.
It's going to hurt integrators worse than manufacturers because they have to install and complete a project to get paid.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
They can't get paid until the project's done.
80%.
And everything's 80%. Then layoffs happen. And then
to be fair, most integrators who work for universities only do 80% of the work and still get paid.
Right.
Ouch. All right. One of the other things we talked about was the transitioning from Zoom at home to Zoom in the classroom. Mm-hmm. We saw some of that. It was that one. It was the reverse. Like I thought it was going to be a bigger pain, and they just kind of did it.
I'm with Jamie.
Even in places it was very, very much discouraged. Like, that's going to be a terrible experience in there. They were happy. Everybody was happy.
It's fine.
As far as I heard.
Yeah.
The comments I got from faculty, especially related to, the difference from teaching from home with Zoom to teaching in a classroom with Zoom, is they seem to want more flexibility to move things around on multiple monitors. But then after talking with them, you find out, well, they didn't have multiple monitors at home anyway. Yeah. So it was just kind of a weird request. Like, I want to position this window over here and that one over there. And so it's like, well, how were you doing it before? Well, I have a monitor.
There was
on my
some
laptop.
New awareness brought up. Like, I can just mirror this, extend that, and create the in-class experience and have a little more tailored experience. There was some confusion early on around like, hey, you don't need to select this as like the source in the room, and it already shows up by way of USB in your computer. So I was pleasantly surprised that a lot of folks had put some thought into their curriculum and pre-digitized a lot of their assets, and they didn't need to do this dancing, switching between contents. It was already sitting there in their LMS, and like they went off the races. Now, there were some edge cases where people needed some assistance, but the other anecdotal piece right now, we're waiting to get the data. We're finding that there's stuff that people really aren't using anymore, because they have everything in one common source. And what does that mean for us moving forward? What opportunities does that present? Yeah,
I was taking out physical media anyway. This just kind of made that argument a lot easier. Yeah.
Or my favorite, the wireless sharing appliances. So now I will say there are ones out there that seem to be kind of leaning into like, all right, well, this one can do Zoom or it can share USB peripherals. So kudos to manufacturers for looking at that. Like, okay, well, we need to figure out a way for these to actually work in a new type of environment. But does that mean it's going to be part of our de facto classroom standard? Probably not. But we're not just going to be dropping in the kind of those, for lack of a better term, those cul-de-sac wireless sharing devices that just, you can mirror this, but then I can't see that on Zoom.
Yeah. So good luck. Well, these 5 people in the room can. They see it in the room.
Well, you can if you feed it through a big matrix switcher and do all this
then there's
crazy
ways to do it.
Stuff,
yes, obviously.
But now your room's $15,000 more expensive.
I was talking to somebody at another school about that, and they said that's what they do. It's like, oh, we treat it as a source, and we route it back in. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Well, yeah. Good luck supporting that 5 years from now.
Not complicated in the least.
Nope.
Anyway, I think I'd say we got it all right. We win.
Well, I was going to say the only other thing related to Zoom teaching with Zoom that I picked up on was the multi-display, and realizing that people had they need to mirror displays because they need to make sure they're seeing the same thing everyone online is seeing. So they have to kind of simplify, regardless of how complex the room can be. They have to dial back their expectations when teaching. So
it was good. People did a good job.
But yeah, I think we did pretty good on that. We'll see how we do again next year.
We're winners.
We're winners.
Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV Super Friends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.